Yeah, spent some time at 13th out of 16 in the first phase. Then he started to climb into mid-pack, and now he could be leading the pack going into the final day. That's his goal. If he wins this match, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, as Michael said, will depart. Well, quite an eventful break, wasn't it? The two going in last roll. A couple of balls over pockets. The big negative, of course, the fact the one isn't sitting pretty. And that is potable.
Sanchez Ruiz coming to the table. He beat Woodward 5-1 in the first phase. He was very streaky during that phase. Lost his first 3 matches, then won his next 5, lost his next 2, 3 wins in a row, and then 2 defeats to finish. And he's continued that tendency through phase 2, when he had a golden break to clinch his 5-1 win over Omar Al-Shaheen yesterday. He completed a remarkable sequence of a few hours where he basically won 4 matches, all back-to-back. But again, the streakiness has shown since. He's now lost his last 3.
Had to swerve on the previous pot, so couldn't do an awful lot with the cue ball. Intentionally kept it simple. In goes the 5, nevertheless. Table 2 action has resumed. Albin Aushin feeling relieved, no doubt. He's taken the opening rack from Omar Al-Shaheen.
Yeah, he'll have a completely different mindset now. He looked like he was pouring every last drop of blood and sweat into that previous match against Joshua Filler. And now it's quite simply about trying to get one more point on the board going into tomorrow. Different story for Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. He needs 2 wins, and they have to be big wins. And he's taken the opener against Skyler Woodward.
Yes, he badly wants to beat Woodward here, and then in the next match, he would like Woodward to prevail because Woodward's next opponent is Alexander Kazakis.
Yeah, it's basically an eliminator for Kazakis. Win and he's through, lose and he's out. Still time for you to win that signed cue, signed by all 10 of the players who made stage 2. If you can tell us who clinched the winning point for Europe in the Mosconi Cup at Alexandra Palace just before Christmas, message your answer to Matchroom Pool on Facebook or at Matchroom Pool on Twitter. We'll tell you the answer and the winner after this match. So who secured the winning point at the 2021 Mosconi Cup at Alexandra Palace? Still got time to get in. That cue signed by all 10 players in the second phase.
I think earlier on today, Michael, I was commentating with you and you said 18 points would get you in. Well, now no one can get to 18. The maximum anyone can get to is 17.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how it's gone? It's tightened up so much. But of course, the result of that is that we could have a fantastic situation going into tomorrow where it could be so tight. You don't want a situation where you've got too many players who have pretty much clinched their places or don't need much to get through. And equally, you don't want players, as we had in this phase, who needed a bit of a miracle even from the start. What a Monday we're in store for.
Yes, the 2 players in this phase who needed that miracle were Omar Al-Shaheen and Mieszko Fortunski, and the miracle never looked like materialising. It would be a minor miracle, I think, if Sanchez Ruiz escaped. The ball's doing him no favours here, especially the 3 in close proximity to the 9.
Talked about the streaks of Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Woodward has been on an incredible winning streak since Friday morning. 11 matches, and he's won 10 of them. And the other one, the one he lost, was only Hill against Jason Shaw.
Not the kiss planned. Albanausian is now playing with freedom. He's taken a 2-0 lead over Omar Al-Shaheen.
Yeah, I think Al-Shaheen is at that stage now where he's satisfied to have made it this far and just wants to get it done now. Turned up late for one of his matches earlier this evening. Not intentionally, of course, no suggestion of that, but I think it may have been symbolic of the frame of mind he's in. Fought the good fight earlier today, even knowing he was going out. Won his first match of the morning against Shane Van Boning. But there's only so long you can keep yourself motivated, and you know there's just nothing left to play for.
Now I reckon, Michael asked me this question between racks, and I wasn't sure then, I'm pretty sure now, I reckon Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has to win his last 2 matches 5-0, 5-1. Oh dear me, he's got no leeway.
Yeah, because that would give him a final racks difference of plus 12. Plus 11 wouldn't do, because that would put him level with David Al-Qaedi, and Al-Qaedi would still be ahead of him on racks 1. So yeah, I think we can pretty conclusively say that. He's got to win these 2 matches and lose no more than 1 rack. And even then he could do all that and it all mean nothing, because Alex Kazakis could still knock him out by beating Woodward.
Yeah, the purgatory permutation. So he's got 1 rack in hand, basically. And that could be going right here.
Think of the all-time famous sporting feats from seemingly hopeless positions. They often get names. It was 10 years ago this year. We had the miracle at Medina. If FSR gets through, this goes down as the miracle of Milton Keynes.
Didn't try and over-elaborate on that shot. Just did what he could. He's missed a few like this over the course of this tournament. Overcutting.
Not this time, though. And Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has used up whatever leeway he had very early on. So basically, he's now got to win 9 racks in a row to have any chance at all of being here for the final day. This man won't be here, Omar Al Shaheen. He's signing off against Alban Ocean. And he's got a rack on the board. 2-1 down. Thoughts on the format, Phil? I think it's been universally acclaimed as a great success, and we're not even finished yet. Still more drama to come tomorrow.
Well, for us in here, it's like the ultimate Wordle, crossword, you name it. It's a real brain teaser. You've got to keep right on top of it and think about all of the implications of points won, then racks difference, and racks won. It's a toughie.
That is the format. We started out with a real top quality field of 16. 6 of those were eliminated once they'd all played each other. That was on Friday night. And then over the weekend, we've had the remaining 10 all playing each other once. All the results from the first phase, for those who were still in, carried forward. As I'm sure you've picked up on by now, 4 players being eliminated at the end of this evening. 6 go through to the final day. We know who 5 of them are. And then tomorrow, again, all the results carry forward, all the wins, all the racks. They'll all play each other again. And 4 of those 6 will go through to the semi-finals tomorrow evening, to be followed immediately by the final. And by the way, it's going to be race to 7 in the semi-finals and final.
Mr. Woodward to break.
Yeah, the mood will change then, immediately. Woodward breaking off. Well, without any success. The conundrum for Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, that little cluster. 5, 6, 8.
We've said he's been so streaky throughout this. Lots of wins in a row and lots of defeats in a row, then back the other way. Into one hell of a streak now. No more margin for error whatsoever.
The 3-9 combination pretty much out of the question. This is where the hard work starts, because although he's nicely on the 4, the 5 is hemmed in on one side. If you can be hemmed in on one side.
Let's say you can.
He's certainly obstructed on one side, wholesale.
10 seconds.
Now though, what about the 5-9? He can hit that down directly, catch the left-hand side of the 9 and maybe chip it in.
Attention. Attention, please.
By the way, Alban Ocean continues to make mistakes on the other table. He has just played a Really awful positional shot onto the 9-ball. Considering where he is in the table, he is so far below his best. It's a joke. The 9-ball doesn't go on either table.
Al Shaheen levels at 2-all then.
You just get the impression with Aushin he's at balling point, because although he's got the necessary points to be in the next phase, every point now for him important for tomorrow to get to the semi-finals. That's the combination that was unsurprisingly misjudged on table 1. So, Michael, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz on the verge, on the threshold of elimination.
Well, perhaps the greatest ever successful act of sporting brinkmanship came in the qualifying rounds of the 1984 European Football Championship. Spain needed to win their last match against Malta by 11 clear goals, and they did it. They went on to reach the final of the tournament itself. Another Spaniard here engaging in an attempt at an extraordinary act of sporting recovery from a seemingly hopeless situation. But all hope could be gone for him in 3 balls' time.
Well, Sanchez Ruiz is Spain, but in pool terms, Woodward most certainly isn't Malta.
Well, no man is an island, Phil. He is a Mosconi Cup MVP, of course, and Malta produced one of those, Tony Drago. Skyler Woodward then, through to the next phase. Will he go through in first place? He might. He leads FSR 2-1. Welcome back to Milton Keynes. Even on days like this, when you spend the whole day looking at numbers and rack difference and all the different things that can possibly happen, Eventually, you get to a point of clarity. So now we know 5 of our qualifiers.
Black.
Filler, Shaw,
Number 4,
Woodward, Van
current
Boning
score
and
is
Ocean.
2-1 in favor
We
of
now
Mr.
know
Woodward.
Francisco Sanchez Ruiz
Sanchez, Ruiz.
joins Mieszko Fortunski and Omar Al Shaheen in no longer being able to get through. So it's a simple equation now. If Alex Kazakis beats Skyler Woodward in the next match on this table, then he will be through. If he loses, he's out, and David O'Cady advances instead.
I think Sanchez Ruiz knows the score, quite literally. And the way the 2 ball is finished will give him no solace whatsoever. (3-2) on the other table, by the way, to Albin Auschen. The misfiring Albin Auschen, one has to say. I know he's prominent in the table, but he's made more mistakes over the last 3 or 4 days than you expect from him in a season.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyone who was watching the Championship League last year will remember his battles through that. Played really well at times, but frequently very badly as well, and it became a real struggle for him. But he managed to just keep on surviving, stayed in, got through to the semi-finals on the last night by the absolute skin of his teeth, and then played very well in the semi-finals and final, and won them both to take the title.
And as you were speaking, he completed a 2-9 billiard. So he leads Al Shaheen 4-2 now.
And despite all his struggles, he can still go into the final day with as many points on the board as anyone, because he can get to 16. Filler's on 16. Shaw could potentially finish on 15, so could Woodward. That, of course, would have a lot more to do with what he was doing on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday than on subsequent events.
Extension, please.
One of those pattern of balls where it looks as though someone's tipped the table on one side.
Remember Joe Johnson, the 1986 World Snooker champion, telling a story once about being invited to play an exhibition on a cruise ship. And everything was fine until he broke off. And of course, because he was on a ship, all the balls just immediately rolled to one side of the table, so they just cancelled it.
Yeah, it was the QE2. So did a few trick shots and answered a few questions, and thanks very much.
Well, he had to do something. It was all hands on deck after that.
Cruise ships and cue sports, I don't think, are a natural mix.
10 seconds.
Skyler Woodward leading this match, but not quite cruising. A chance for Sanchez Ruiz. I wonder how motivated he is at this stage. I would assume he knows at this stage what the situation is, that he can't now advance.
A bucket load of balls are being missed. This isn't rocket science. Basically, I think what's happened here is that the players have got mentally tired as the week's gone on. There'll be no problem tomorrow because adrenaline will kick in. But right now, I think they're all running on fumes.
Yeah, and Omar Al Shaheen will be only slightly fuming because he's out anyway. He's just scratched, and that is going to be his last shot of the week. Alban Ocean was left with ball in hand, a simple 9. And so at least he finishes with a couple of wins, Ocean. In fact, he's won all of his last 3 matches. He'd already clinched his place in the next phase by beating Joshua Filler. And the win over Omar Al Shaheen means he advances with 16 wins. Same number as Joshua Filler. Will anyone else match or even overtake that? Skyler Woodward still can.
Yes, as we speak, Ocean up to 2nd place in the table. He's won exactly 100 racks in the 2 phases. Only Filler with 103 has won more. But of course, with this match and one more to come, Woodward could also reach 3 figures.
So appropriately enough, we've spent most of this rack talking about both cruise ships and an ocean. The bottom line on rack 4 is that Skyler Woodward is poised to win it. And that is 3-1. You know, he had his flight booked for tomorrow to go back to the United States. He's rebooked now for Tuesday. He was waiting to see if he was going to make it through to the final day. So he'll now be flying from London Heathrow to Dallas and then on to Lubbock, which, even though it's within the same state, is actually another flight. That'll be on Tuesday, so he's rebooked. I think he might treat himself with an upgrade if he can win the title here and the $20,000 first prize.
Here is the league table. The only question now, will Kazakis prevail in his last match and deny David Al-Kaidi? Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, Mieszko Fortunski and Omar Al Shaheen. For them, hope has been extinguished. At the top, we still don't know who will be right on the top of the perch going into phase 3. At the moment, Skyler Woodward has got every chance if he wins his closing 2 matches. And Michael, who would have thought that? Midway through day 2, even into day 3.
Yeah, he did say that he felt he was playing well. He seemed pretty relaxed about things. I think he liked the freedom of it, as it were, that you can lose a few matches along the way. You don't have to keep playing consistently well throughout. When I spoke to him the other day, seemed to be quite patient about things, felt his time would come, that he'd get the results, things would fall his way.
Current score is 3-1 in favour of Mr.
Skyler Woodward, 3-1 up, and with the break.
Well, that's the second time he's been dry. By the way, you won't hear balls clicking. You won't hear announcements to start racks over on table 2 for a while because there's a delay there. The last match of the evening, a dead rubber, will feature Mieszko Fortunski against Sanchez Ruiz. It is dead because Sanchez Ruiz will finish in 8th place. Fortunski will finish in 9th, regardless of the outcome.
I think that's the only truly dead match we've had, certainly in this phase anyway. Isn't even a prize money consideration.
10 seconds.
Yes, we know about the vital importance of Kazakis against Woodward next. And then the last matchup, although both players are qualified for the next phase, Van Boning and Shaw, the nightcap here on table 1. There's always spice involved in that matchup, and the extra point going forward to tomorrow could be hugely important.
I don't think anyone would have expected that we were going to have such a tight situation as we're going to heading into Monday.
Foul.
Well, now
I'm absolutely sure that's an incorrect call. I definitely think he hit the one first.
well, he certainly thinks so. Got to have another look at that.
Start the clock, please. Foul.
Well, on that replay, I might be changing my mind, but I thought on the initial shot, the one just wobbled.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, I thought it was the correct call, but they were travelling at such speed.
Extension, please.
It was hard to be absolutely sure at first glance.
I'd like to see the normal table shot when he actually played. But it's a matter of instinct, and maybe my instinct and Skyler's was incorrect.
Yeah, we've had a few controversies with the refereeing, haven't we? David O'Cady was trying to take an extension, I think it was yesterday, and was then told that he'd already taken it. Maintained he hadn't. No idea what the truth of the matter was.
I do believe we got that shot on slow motion, so let's just take a really good look at this and see conclusively who's correct.
That's pretty conclusive.
It is indeed. Apologies, Mr. Lehman, you were on the right side.
It's nice when you can absolutely clear these things up. Speaking of clearing up, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz has done just that. Out of the tournament, but still in the match. 3-2 down. Now, Mosconi Cup tickets going on sale in the coming days. 2 consecutive stagings in England, but it's going back to the States. All starts on the 30th of November at Bally's, Las Vegas. So go to matchroompool.com for all the details. Tickets will be on sale on Thursday. And after having to wait so long to have it back, Phil, those American fans must be itching to see their team play on home ground again in the Mosconi and try to stop the Europeans making it 3 on the bounce.
And because it's such a popular destination, the City of Lights, Las Vegas, it's entirely possible that American fans from all 50 states could be there.
Yeah, it might be a sizable contingent going over from Europe as well for those very reasons. It's become such an institution in the sporting calendar. Always just coming into that run up to Christmas when it happens. So matchroompool.com, the place to go for details. Tickets will be going on sale later this week. Talk about events growing from humble beginnings, by the way. When you think of the early Mosconi Cups, and you know, with some big name snooker players brought into them just to try and get a bit of extra publicity. But some low-key venues and small crowds, always been a good atmosphere about it. I don't think anyone would have imagined when it started back in 1994 that it would grow into what it's become.
And the American team in the early Mosconi Cups was a million miles away from being their best outfit.
Whereas now you've got players sweating blood all year trying to get in And of course, the teams are so small, it's only 5 players. And you look at the European side, nobody's guaranteed at the start of the year, obviously, but most of those 5 you could probably name on New Year's Day.
10 seconds.
Leaves everybody else scrapping for very few places. You consider Fedor Gorst didn't even make it into the European team in 2021. Tells you everything. What we need to see on the American side, of course, is some new names emerging. And Skyler was saying to me the other day, he actually thinks things are changing. Jason Shaw, who lives in the States, has echoed that. Feels there are some youngsters, late teens, early 20s now, who in the next couple of years are going to come through and challenge for places on the team. They really need new blood. Plenty of it in Europe.
The USA won 10 of the first 12 stagings. But now Europe, with a rich pool of talent, are so hard to beat. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz could be in the conversation.
Stencil, please.
Yeah, and you have to think he would probably have to get in off the rankings. I know the current European team management, as it were, favour more experienced players when it comes to the selections that are at their discretion. Still battling away then. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz was 3-1 down. It's now 3-all. We'll have the climax in a moment. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz will be bowing out of the Predator Premier League tonight. Still got one more match to play after this, but he's no longer in a position where he can be among the 6. Skyler Woodward is definitely in, but he does still have something to play for. He can go through in first place, and really more important than the position, I guess, is basically where you stand in terms of points in relation to everybody else. But he can put himself in pole position going into Monday with a big finish to what's been a very productive Sunday for him.
One thing we haven't discussed actually is Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, if he wins his last 2 matches and Kazakis loses his against Woodward, there's a chance FSR could be 7th, so improve his pay packet. well, from a couple of dry breaks to a pulsating break. The one's in, so the two's next, and that's unmissable. An easy route out to get up for the three.
Yeah, just speaking of the prize money, minimum guarantee for anyone who gets through to tomorrow is $6,250. That's if you finish bottom. Goes up to $7,000 if you just miss out in a place in the semi-finals. And if you make that final four, $8,000 is the minimum guarantee, but that's where things really start to ratchet up. And then when you're semi-final, you're on $12,500. If you win the final, $20,000.
From here, Woodward should be on the hill. But after what we've seen tonight, so many mistakes from so many different players, I am taking nothing for granted. Five-nine combination with the 9 so close to the pocket. This should be made.
Lead regained then. Skyler Woodward, 4-3 in front. Worth another look. So many combinations in that corner yesterday, didn't we? When we had all the controversy about the racking. Not so much today. Big plans for the future of this Premier League. It's the first year of it. It's grown out of the Championship League, which was played here around about this time last year. Talk of having crowds in, maybe touring around with it, and perhaps even taking it to another country. It's all being looked at for the next few years. And we've looked so often at that ranking schedule. All the ranking tournaments and all the invitationals that are on the calendar for 2022. And talking to some of the matchroom people earlier today, they were saying that may not even be it, that they're still talking to other existing events about maybe adding those in as well. It really is threatening to become a year-round calendar of real high-quality tournaments.
Rack number 8, card scores 4-3 in favor of Mr. Woodward. Mr. Sanchez, Ruiz to break.
Is this going to be the third consecutive match on table 1 to go the distance? The 9 ball. That's cheeky.
Funny you should use that word, Skyler Woodward. He was sitting with us earlier in the media room. Someone used that word and he was asking, what does that actually mean? And it's hard to define because in England it gets used to mean all sorts of things.
Impudent, irreverent, naughty even.
Someone did mention naughty, yes.
10 seconds.
Extension, please. Push out call.
This is a real head scratcher of a push out. Has he
Woodward, your option.
overcooked the cue ball? Well, we can gather from the hesitation that he hasn't left the gap between cushion and two. There's no room for Sanchez Ruiz to go cushion first to pot the one.
Extension, please.
Because he caught the one a little thick, he needed cover. Now he's right against the 9. This is tight, mighty tight. How did the one not drop? It wriggled, it wobbled, it jangled, and refused to fall.
I've been asking questions like that more than ever this week. I think these tighter pockets have been a huge success in terms of improving the spectacle still further. Haven't heard any of the players disagree with that view.
A sarcastic good shot from Skyler Woodward when he knows the opposite to be true.
Yeah, it went back to the previous shot, coming in and out of the jaws with the cue ball like that. Can always make it that bit harder to predict what's going to happen positionally, so he hadn't left himself quite where he intended to be on that previous shot. But talk about a recovery.
Well, I'm glad he didn't get position now. Look at that. That was a gem.
Came a bit straight on the 4, but this looks fine. Looks like he's going to win again, Phil. A victory machine he's become.
I remember precisely when he was 7 wins for 6 losses. And I saw him in the practice room and I said, well, you're pretty much there now to the second phase, Skyler. And he said, that's no good. I want to win the next 2 to make it 9 to give myself a chance to make the 3rd phase. That's precisely what he achieved. And now, in this phase, he has gone from strength to strength.
And things could get a whole lot better, you know. He's beaten Francisco Sanchez Ruiz by 5 racks to 3. Now